Hi, it's Fountain here, and today I'm going to talk about how to hold more perspectives. Now, we sometimes appear to be living in somewhat of a polarized society. A simple example is, black versus white, but then what about the grey? Because we all know it's not just two perspectives on one thing. Well, I hope you understand that there's not just two perspectives on one aspect of life. Now, the kind of us versus them attitude, I'm sure I don't have to go too much into it, but you'd understand that it's not very healthy, for our wellness and for our community. And having, I guess, what some would call open-mindedness, or others might call it holding more perspectives, can actually be rather beneficial, like to ourselves and obviously those around us, for creating more a kind of harmonious and loving kind of community, right, that we live in, and on a collective level, it can expand obviously to the whole earth. Yeah, I won't go too much into that. So I also understand that it's not easy to be able to cultivate that ability to hold, multiple perspectives on one tiny little aspect, right? And obviously that's due to our own kind of environmental upbringings, beliefs, stories, programming, if you want to call it that, that we've absorbed, and hence why I'm doing this vlog, right? So I guess the first step I want to go on to is understanding that we all have different perspectives, right? And that you really have to come to an understanding and an acceptance that one view isn't necessarily more important than the other view. They're all equally important, not in the sense of, whether one's right or wrong, but they all hold some kind of importance in some way in, in life, really. Now, the second one I would say is that you have to actually be really willing to be able to listen to what others have to share, and not do it in a judgmental way, unless they've actually given permission to say, like, hey, I think, or I feel, or I know this. What do you think, feel, or know about this? Then obviously that's your opportunity to sort of go and explain how the perspectives that you hold. Hopefully you hold more than one perspective about it too. But if you don't, that's okay. And then also the next step, I'd say you want to actually be willing to be able to observe your emotions within yourself when someone is sharing their perspectives, and not project what emotions you're feeling onto them. And when you're able to more be in an observation point of your emotions when someone's sharing perspective, and not, and you're not projecting onto them, you may find how they actually communicate their perspective can be a lot more of a compassionate and, if you want to call it, level-headed way in which they communicate with you. And even if they're not at first, you're just listening, maybe asking a question or two, but obviously in a way where you're not coming from a place of judgment. You're being really calm and collected, if I could say, in how you're then communicating back to them. And not just doing it in a way like you just faking it till you make it. You really are embodying that. You may actually start to notice that then their approach to sharing their perspective doesn't mean you're not changing their perspective. You're just sharing the way in which they communicate their perspective. You might notice that changes, and then you may come away from that, obviously, that interaction feeling a lot calmer, feeling a lot like you haven't drained your energy, feeling a lot like, oh, I really understand them as a person. And then obviously the last step I want to talk about is that you don't actually have to agree. Like, it's not the be all and end all. Like, you really have to agree for it to be the exact same thing. You can share your perspective in a loving, judgmental way and being compassionate about it, if they create space for that. I do understand there's going to be times where there is no space created for that. And there may not be any benefit as such as actually even listening to what someone is saying about something, especially if they're encroaching on your boundaries or it's being dangerous to you in some kind of way. There's obviously going to be times you go, thank you, I don't need to hear anymore. I'm now leaving this conversation. And I understand there will be times where that will have to happen. And from my own experience, I find the communication around perspectives and the outcomes of that and the feeling of that communication, I find it a lot more wholesome to actually have in real life, in the physical presence of someone, than through a piece of technology such as an email or even a telephone or social media. We all know our own kind of experiences around social media and sharing perspectives, whether you get involved in things like that or not. It doesn't take much to really see, if you can take a step back and really see what's going on. And people get really upset or angry about sharing perspectives and others not seeing it from the same way. And anyway, I guess when you're going through those kind of 4 steps, understanding that everything is allowed to be different, be willing to listen, be willing to observe your emotions, understand you don't have to agree. Take the opportunity to notice yourself in that communication as well, and see if you're reacting any differently to it, see if your emotions are different to it, see if you're picking up on different understandings and perspectives in that interaction. And if you're noticing still a lot of resistance as well, that's okay. There's just more opportunity to do more work, do more inner work on yourself. If you want to come to a more calm and collected place of allowing people to share their perspectives about something that's different than yours, that's okay too. We're not here to be perfect. I don't even know what that is. And I'm sure you probably don't either. So yeah, that's just, I guess, this vlog about, how can you hold more perspectives, and to do it in, I guess, as much of a loving and compassionate way as possible, but also knowing when it's time of this interaction has no benefit whatsoever to me. I'm feeding more into their traumas. Sometimes you just go a step away, and that's okay too. If you have some perspectives on what I've just shared, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you've got any more questions, or you have some more blog requests that you want to request over to me, you can leave in the comment section. I'm also in a number of different social media platforms as well. You'll find them in the description box down below. And I will see you in the next vlog.